G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Druk's Milan Unboxing. Sitting across from me is Peter the Sniper Smith, ex-heavyweight boxer and also one of South Africa's top trainers. He's involved in our event here at the Bubble at Emperor's Palace, training Boyd Allen. And Peter, welcome. Nice to chat to you.
Thank you. Thanks for
Let's start at the beginning, like I always like to. Let's start how you got involved in boxing. Way at the beginning, of course, is in your family.
Yeah, that's correct. My dad, obviously, famous boxer in these days, and I think my dad didn't want us to actually go the boxing route. It was a big thing in his life. He just said he doesn't want us to go his way in life because it was a very hard way. It was a very difficult road, and I think because of his circumstance and upbringing in life, that was the road chosen for him. So he took us to amateur boxing, and how it happened was actually I was at Huguenot Boxing Gym, was my gym.
Yes.
And the trainer there was actually blown away by the way I performed and how I was learning quickly. And he said to my dad, and my younger brother George as well was also a devastating fighter. He's like actually the white Mike Tyson. And he was exactly that type of fighter. So we grew up like going to the boxing gym just to learn self-defense and I think as a sport, my dad was very driven by sport. He was like very pro sport and being active kids and not focusing on the wrong areas in life where a lot of like kids do end up going. And that's how I started amateur boxing, and there was no way we were going to fight. He said not going to have fights, and then the coach said, listen, give your sons a chance. I think these boys got talent, they're going to go somewhere. And I had my first junior fight, and I still remember, yes, the way this like hit me, and I started crying, but I was like adapting. I never knew I actually fought the first fight. I fought a junior Springbok. It was the amateur junior Springbok, and I actually went to a point decision. And everyone was blown away because it was very close. It was a split, but they could only give it to the amateur. But people were booing, like saying it was closer than that. They thought it could have gone either way. So it was kind of like that. And then my dad pulled me away. We had one or two juniors, and he pulled me away. And then went to seniors. I started getting to senior ranks where I was 16. And then I said, Dad, let me just have a go. And boom, boom, just took it from there.
There's a quick aside to the viewers that are not South African. His dad's Kwesi Smith, former South African light heavyweight champion, also fought Victor Galindez for the world title. Had him hurt at one stage and lost on points eventually. So then you turned pro. How did that come about? Well,
that came about, I tell you what, what happened was I was Springbok heavyweight champion. And what happened was the Olympic Games was a turnaround of Olympic, us getting accepted after the walls of apartheid dropped, and us getting accepted back into amateur boxing in the Olympic arena. And we went to go and qualify. It was our first experience ever international, going overseas. We went to Germany for the World Games. We were kind of late entry because of the ban being lifted at that short moment. And we went to World Games and we fought in, I remember it was myself, Cassius Beloy, Giovanni Pretorius. It was a number of us that were in that team. So we were the hot favorites as far as the South African boys going in. And I fought in the semi-final against a Russian and I lost on points, but I still qualified for Olympic Games. And they could only take, out of 42 complete athletes in South Africa, they could only take 3 boxers. And unfortunately, out of the 12 or 15 of us, 8 of us qualified, but they could only take 3 fighters. So it took Giovanni, Cassius Beloy, and I can't remember who the third one was. So we unfortunately had to stand back, but Super Heavyweight got knocked out in the final, and I'm sure it was the Klitschko that knocked him out.
Yes.
Because I remember that so well. It was this German guy. He was a terrifying fighter, and he ended up knocking our heavyweight out. Then they gave me the opportunity if I wanted to go up to super heavyweights, because there was a gap for me in the super heavyweights, not in the heavyweights.
Yes.
So unfortunately, I couldn't get into a heavyweight division. I was like 89, 90 kilograms,
You're a big guy, but heavy compared to me, but heavyweight wise, you're 6'3" around.
I'm 6'3". I'm now weighing, in my career, early part of my career, I was very light. I was 92, and then trying to bulk up and get the weight on. And those were early days. And we never knew how to diet and do things like that, So you know, we were fighting in our weight categories that we were
Yes.
best at, you know. And yeah, so then the Olympics never happened, and I said, let me give pros a try.
Yes.
And I had a great pro career. I just had unfortunate hiccups in my career, but I fought for the world title, actually against the guy John McClain, and unfortunately for that one, I was fighting at heavyweights, and the cruiserweight division was 86.6 or something like
The
that.
WBU tried a super cruiserweight
Yes.
division, and I think you
I was
fought
the
for
first
the
one.
inaugural title. Yeah.
Myself and John McClain were the first one. Unfortunately, I was 98 kilograms. I got myself to 98 kilograms as a heavyweight.
Yes.
And what happened was, I fought Anton Nel. He broke my nose off. It was a big fight we had. It was supposed to be for the SA title. It got
You beat Anton Nel for the Transvaal title.
Yes,
right?
it
You
was.
fought each other twice.
yes,
in your
we fought
careers as well.
twice. That's right. So yeah, and unfortunately he caught me. I remember I think it was a left hook, and he caught me and it broke, shattered my nose. Anyway, the doctor said you're off for 6 months, and then what happened was, that was in November. I think somewhere in November. I went away December, came back. Then I got the news in January to fight for the world title, but I was only given 2 weeks. I was given a 2-week notice, and they said, and Harold was my trainer at that time. He said, Harold, Peter, let's take this fight, man. So I was keen, but the doctor still gave me 6 months set off.
It looked like a winnable fight on paper.
Well, I mean, I knew what I was capable of.
Yes.
And I saw John McClain, and he was a big puncher. He was a very dangerous puncher in the first early rounds of his fights. But I don't believe he was in my category. I don't believe he was in my step. But you know what? Unfortunately, I took the fight on 2 week notice. I crashed weight. I lost about 8 kilograms in like 2 weeks at weight that I couldn't lose. And you know, we didn't know how to cut weight. We didn't. I didn't have the experience of those things. So it was a mishap in my life, a wrong choice. Then I immigrated to the United States, and that's when I continued my boxing career there.
Yeah, because now if we talk heavyweights in South Africa, obviously the two big names are Gary Coetzee, Corey Sanders, and then we go to Frans Botha, Johnny de Plooy, Pierre Coetzee. But you actually had a pretty decent career as a heavyweight. You went 20-2, not bad at all. And you ended your career still on a win. And then you decided to walk away from that. What made you walk away?
Well, the thing was this, what happened was, I fought a guy called David Vedder. It was a very tough fight.
He fought Virgil Hill.
Yes, he fought all top guy fighters, and this fight happened to come at a time when I was in America. I was training with my trainer, Odell Hadley, one of the greatest trainers I've ever been with in my life. And sadly, he's passed away. He was like a father to me, and he took me. I beat David Vedder, and it was an undercard of a heavyweight title fight at the Great Western Forum in California. And what happened was, I beat Vedder, and shortly after that, I got a shot at Mike Tyson. Tyson at the ear-biting scenario, with Evander Holyfield. And they saw me on Fox Television in my fight, and they chose me to fight Mike Tyson. And soon after that, I had Don King coming after me. My trainer said, "Look here, let's just show you stay free agent." And I was dealing with Shelly Finkel as well. Like Shelly is Tyson's manager. And Shelly was phoning me, and he said, "Will you what?" And we sort of agreed on the purse, and agreed on the they'll come back to me when the fight date, and they were going to take it to China, the fight. And I was keen. I said, I'm going for it. It was any fighter's pinnacle to get that shot to fight for the world title, the heavyweight title, especially against Mike Tyson. That was special. Unfortunately, I ended up signing with Don King, and all the promises that were made fell through. But then I never knew that Mike Tyson and Don King had a big fallout. It happened behind that time. And it was very secretive. It was very secretive.
Yes.
And what happened was it went very bad. And when Shelly phoned me back, and because I was waiting for about 5 weeks for the fight, for notice of the fight, they kept me on hold. I went and took the meeting with Don King because he kept going for me, saying, come see me. And they took me to Beverly Hills, and I sat down with him, and we sat down, and it was a big room with a lot of people in it. And there was all these, big players, and I was quite intimidated. But knowing that it was Don King, I think as a South African boy, you think, wow,
of course, Don King is up there.
He wants me, why not let me give it a try? And I'd never heard from Shelly, and then I ended up signing with Don King. And what happened then, Shelly called me the week later, and he said, "Peter, the fight's on. Are you ready?" And I said, I've got a problem.
You just signed with Don King.
I've just signed Don King, and he'll have to represent me. And they said, that's not going to happen.
You're not going to work with King.
Yep. And
I'd
the
love
fight
it,
got
yeah.
cancelled, and I tried to get my contract back because I never had a fight with him then. I had a 48-hour period, never happened, and I wasn't willing to take the road that my trainer actually was disappointed because he told me not to sign with him, to first get everything set and straight, see what was on record, what was on contract. And I think in the spur of a moment, I was pushed into it. But it's boxing, it's life.
King is known for that.
I made my mistake, and I because I was 7 years in America, I said, let me come home and visit my family. And that's when I took a step back, came to visit my family, and I never went back. It was just one of those things.
And then there was a period that you were out of boxing, and then you came back as a trainer. And tell us, how did it start when you became a trainer?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't want anything to do with boxing after that. I want to start a career and move into another adventure or something, because boxing was my life, and I was disappointed by the setbacks. And I think I just said, let me move away from this game. And then while I was busy doing, my brothers Sean and George had a gym, and they said, man, just part-time, come help clients. They really want to meet you, want to let you train them and have some fun while you're doing, while you're trying to find what you want to do. And I took on training some people, and I had some fun. I was actually having fun on the outside, training people and giving back. And it was just clients. It wasn't anything going anywhere training fighters.
So the personal training, keeping guys
personal
fit
training, helping friends, family, clients. And so what happened was, I got approached by one of the clients who was a good friend of ours, Chris, and he said, do you mind training Ruben Groenewald?
Yes.
And I'll pay you forward, whatever you want, I'll pay you for the training. And I never knew Ruben because I was so far back in America for so many years. And I heard about and I looked at his record, and I saw what he's about. And we connected, and we started training. We had about a month, maybe 5-6 weeks of training for Daniel Brevet.
Remember that fight? I remember the fight well, yes.
And it was a big rush. I never knew how those two guys had.
No, they don't like each other.
No, I was shocked. But you know what? For the sake of boxing, being in it, I understood where they were coming from. And my heart kind of was in it in a way. I was giving to Ruben, and I think I did a great job on him in the short time I had with him. And he was a good student. He suffered from asthma.
Yes.
That was his downfall. And in that short moment, I think I remember some of the BSA guys came up to me and said, man, we never thought that this guy would have any chance against Daniel Brevet. What you did, you should consider looking at training fighters, Peter. And I looked and I said, nah, this is just a once-off. And anyway, then it happened via the grapevine. Chris van Heeren and I connected to some people that were, I think Chris was on his way he wanted to leave and go another venture in his life, in his career. And we just happened to meet through some friends, and it happened where he asked, the people asked me, why don't you train Chris? And I looked and I said, I'll see what I can do. And we trained, and we did exceptionally well. I think Chris did exceptionally well. Chris, and I give it to Nick. Nick was a great fighter, a great trainer.
Nick Durant.
Nick Durant. So he had Chris at the beginning. So he developed, Chris in a very good way in the base of his career. And I think I just came in and started polishing up other things in his career that I saw.
So Chris went from Nick to you.
Yeah, okay. I think that's how it happened. So I took on Chris, and then we won the IBO title.
Yes, I remember.
We beat a big fight. It was Matthew Hatton. Matthew Hatton,
Ricky's brother.
Matthew Hatton went with Alvarez 12 rounds.
Yes.
And everyone was like, "Are you crazy? Are we going to?" And this was his last hurrah, Matthew Hatton, because it was a decider.
Yes.
His dad and him really wanted him to put everything in, and Chris beat him well.
Yes.
And his dad, Matthew Hatton's dad, came up to me and said to me, "Listen, I've studied every video. What you've done to this kid blew me away. Because everything he did was not on what we saw." So I was kind of like, okay, it was quite like, it was uplifting, And I felt like in a way I was doing the right thing. And then Kevin Lorino was a young kid then. he was with us all together with Chris Van Heerden, and he was a young kid, and he took on my technique and my style from the get-go.
Yeah.
So my teachings was from the get-go.
And Chris has done well for himself. He went overseas.
Yes.
And props to him. Went to further his career in America. I don't think he's more with Top Rank anymore, but he was with Top Rank for a while. Let's hope something can still happen for him. And you say Kevin Lerena adopted your style. We're going to get more to him later. What is the Smith style?
Well, you know what? My trainers, I had two of the best trainers, I could say, and this is what I do. I compliment what I do, and what my experience is what they did in my career. What these trainers, and I've had a few. Alan Terwil was a great trainer. Harold was a great trainer.
Yes.
And these two trainers that I had, Odell Hadley and Kevin Young. These were my pinnacle trainers. That's where I saw the shift in my whole boxing change.
So you had quite a mix. Yeah.
I had a mix, but I found the right combination for me, and I found what worked, and I found it through these men. These men were the knowledge. My one trainer was under Custom Water. They grew up, they were orphans under Custom Water. I know the whole history and the lifestyle of what happened in that house, and how Tyson, I met Tyson, I met him personally. He's the greatest guy. I've got to give it to him. You know, all the hype and crap that they spoke about and downing him was a lot of rubbish. You know, they made him the bad. You know, they lift you up and they want to break you by the knees, you know.
And it's also something that sells. You can be the good guy, you can be the bad guy. But if you're sort of in the middle, then you better be a hell of a fighter, because people lose interest.
So true.
Yeah.
So my how can I say, my gratefulness is to my two trainers, Kevin Young and Odell Hadley. What those guys showed me in boxing shifted me like nobody. I was, through those men, I think today, as a heavyweight, I think the way I speak still, and the way I still got myself together is through those two guys. Because they took away everything else. Like, you look at my fighters, Kevin Lerena, he doesn't come from any background of any fighting. And he doesn't get hit like these other guys get hit. You know?
This is the interesting thing, because now if we talk about trainers, if you get an uber talent like an Ali or Sugar Ray Leonard or somebody like that, or Dingaan Bella, we have to be local, you got to keep them on the track and so on. But it's hard to, I may be not qualified to say so, but it's hard to mess that up unless the personality's done job. But what I find quite different about you, okay, Ruben Groenewald is a very good amateur. I believe Chris Van Heerden also. But now you have two guys currently, Kevin Lerena, who's in everybody's first 5 cruiserweights in the world, so IBO champion, and then you got an up-and-comer, Rowan Campbell, and none of these guys had an amateur career.
None.
And you turned them into quite successful pros. It's amazing how far Kevin has gone. And even if Rowan doesn't do anything else from here on, it's gone far from for somebody who no amateur career. So you took something that's quite a kind of unusual. You have them, but it's not commonplace that you have these guys in their amateur careers. You turn them into successful pros. How did you do that?
Well, that is purely, and I'll repeat the greatest of them all, Custom Water. Two things that a fighter has for championship quality, and that is character and skill. And when I look for fighters in my I don't look, there's so much potential out there, but so many fighters lack character. They got the skill, but they lack the character. But then you got fighters that have character and skill together. Now people say, what is character, what is skill? You know, most fighters that you can see out there, and I've spoken to my dad in the past, and he told me about Spider Kelly and the great fighters that he thought was so like, but their characters lack, they have the talent and the skill. Now, skill is an art, it's a development. You know, an artist has skill, you know, it's a vision. What I do is I implant my vision. Every fighter has a different style and way, but there is a technique, I believe, that through everything that you teach. If some fighters, I always hear this saying, and it always bugged me in my career: styles make fights, or somebody's got your number. I disagree with that. I'm so into those negative connotations that stand, because you take a Mayweather, he's beaten fighters, boxers, punchers. you name it. Movers. He's been in the styles. Why? If you take the two people that were the foundations of his career, they installed in him every variable way of how to beat an opponent. It's like they're playing a chess game. There is a way or a technique, but if I make the wrong move, I will fail over your skill. So I believe personally, the way you ingrain the skill into your fighter will lay the outcome. Because I've seen it. I know nobody ever believed Kevin Lerena would be a world champion.
I'll tell you honestly, when I saw Kevin in the beginning, right, I thought, shit, this is a very marketable like,
Okay,
but he's a good-looking chap. He markets himself extremely well, better than any fighter in South Africa. And he's a good-looking guy. He's the kind of guy that teenage girls are going to put a poster on their wall for him.
Yeah.
And he's an exciting fighter, and then he loses to Johnny Miller. I think, okay, if you're not going to beat Johnny Miller, he's going to be a nice local attraction, round about SA level, and look at him now. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a story about that. When Kevin and I started off together, we started off right in the beginning, and I love that. And this is what I would like to explain. It's more difficult for me to take on a fighter who's had a background somewhere else, because they either created a lot of habits that I have to, and habits is a hard thing to break. So once you install a fighter that's been ingrained in the foundational part of his career a certain way, his mind is very connected to the way he fights. So he doesn't know another way. He only knows his way. But in that bad habit that he's created, it catches up to him somewhere in his career. But when I take a fighter from raw materials, like first, me in the beginning, like I've taken Kevin, like I've taken Rowan. I've taken these two guys from the beginning. Chris Van Heeren was a very, very great guy to coach. He was disciplined. I've got to give it to him. He was disciplined, and he would listen, and he would do, and he would try. He was a trier. He wasn't like a guy who would give up. But it was harder for me to work on Chris, but although I was getting there with him, we weren't even touching the iceberg. I believe I could have made him do much better against Errol Spence in many ways. I think the technique of his fight, standing up too straight with Errol Spence, is not a good thing.
There's no shame in losing to Errol Spence. He was never supposed to win.
I think it was not, the fight wasn't taken at the right time of his career as well. But in all respect, he fought well and he did very well. So what I like to say is this: the foundations you create from the base of a fighter is a fundamental part for me as a trainer. So when I take a fighter from the beginning, the raw roots, he only knows my ways. He can only adjust to my callings and understand what I do. But the minute you start coaching fighters that come from other backgrounds or being coached in other styles, like my other fighter, Michael Markram, I kept coaching Michael, I'm looking and I'm thinking, no, something's wrong here, something's wrong. And it happened, he's had a big background in amateurs in Canada. And I looked at him and I said, Mark, can I ask you a question? Are you a southpaw? He looked at me and he says, you're a coach. I looked and I said, I don't think you're a southpaw. And he looked at me and he said, why do you say that? I said, Mark, I look at you, you're not a southpaw. You don't take my information well, you don't do what I teach as well as others. So we got to a point where he came out and says, Coach, you know what? You're the first person that ever asked me that. I said, why? He said, do you know the Canadians turned me southpaw because they said southpaws are hard to fight. I'm actually an orthodox.
So he was a converted southpaw.
So I said, I picked it up. Why didn't you tell me? And we slowly started getting back into where I believed what I thought was good for him.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, in the big picture of things, it's easier for me to develop my fighters. Like when I had Kevin from the beginning, I had Kevin the first 5 fights, and then we had a bit of a breakup, and he was knocking guys out like Mike Tyson. He was going, that was in the beginning.
He's knocking guys out again.
Yeah. And then we had a breakup, and he wanted to come back, and I was focusing on Chris Van Heeren and my other guys, and I said to him, go to my brother Sean and go and train with Sean. He's doing well. He's winning. Then he got to Johnny's fight, and he lost to Johnny. And then we kind of, he came and asked me, can I train him again? And I said, okay, I'll give him a chance. And we got together again, we started training. And we adapted from the past. He caught it on quickly, and now we're developing, and he's becoming that structured, strong fighter. That style that I teach is what he's coming in. And Rowan's now, you see how fast Rowan's gone. From a nobody in a boxing background
he kept improving.
He just boom, 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 boom. And that's how to develop fighters, because if I don't see them improving, there's either something I'm doing wrong as a trainer, or mentally there's something wrong with their form of style or thinking, you know.
If we take Kevin Lerena now, I know we're in the pandemic, international travel, we don't know what's going to happen, so everything that we discuss really has an asterisk to it. There's talk of him fighting Jai Opetaia, of an Aussie, an unbeaten fighter, an IBF eliminator, unbeaten but very untested. Is that something that you guys would like to do? Go that route?
I'll tell you the truth on that. Opetaia, I think we put him to the side. Personally, because in Australia, I don't care how many times you knock a man down, they'll stop you. Australian ruling is not great for us in boxing, and globally, Manny Pacquiao, I think, beat Horn.
Yes.
And he got robbed.
Most people
sickly.
thought so.
I'll tell you what's the name beat the heavyweight, just short of my mind. The heavyweight, the big plumpy, the big guy heavyweight that fought, lost to AJ, Ruiz.
Andy Ruiz.
Andy Ruiz,
Joe Parker.
I believe he beat Joe Parker in
I
Australia.
thought it was a close fight.
It was a close fight,
yeah.
but I didn't believe but he kind of felt it, he knew it.
Okay.
But Parker's a great fighter. But, okay, so going on that question, we get a lot of question marks about fighting him as well, because he's not qualified enough or whatever it is. But so we like.
But it's a good route to take, because it's a beatable opponent.
Yes.
I feel he's sort of like a man undefeated, untested record. I watched a bit of tape on him. I think he's better than Alpha Man. He's got quick feet and so on. Also a southpaw. So it's a winnable thing to get to the next level, or to get to the IBF title. To go that route. But I understand you don't want to fight in Australia.
No, it's not about that. I think there's a few roads that's going to lead us to where we want to go. My main game plan here, and I sit and talk to Rodney about it, so we in deep discussions about a lot of things that's on the table. That's one of them. I'm looking at that Ray Merritt,
Riyad Mary, the French guy.
The French guy.
Interim belt that can lead to the
we're looking at that option.
And yeah, that's a good one.
That's the way I think credibility wise, I think it's going to be a good fight for us. As far as Kevin on, I think the WBA side, as well as the, IBF, I think could be tapping on the door there.
But the thing with Kevin is, he's since this shoulder surgery, has he had another one now?
Well, he had the one. Yeah, saw the one.
The one that took him out after the.
It was his rugby injuries that have just come up in his career, and it's like, unfortunately, well, it came at a good time now. The second one, because I said to Kevin, after that last fight we had in Germany, Kevin was, coach, my shoulder, and in the training he kept my shoulder. I thought he was like, Kev, are you really like this bad? What's going on? He said, coach, I'm not. He kept going to physio, he kept going to. Doc Rob, the Rosebank Clinic, for shoulder like platelets and getting his shoulders rehab. And eventually I said, Kev, go now.
Yeah.
Go and see what's gonna. They went in, they checked out what was going. Boom. They said, no. Thank goodness he had it done.
But he's okay now.
He's great.
He's ready to go.
Why he's ready?
Yeah, because you guys sometimes catch a lot of criticism, Kevin now specifically, because people are getting sort of frustrated. His form is looking good, but they want him against a big name or something, somebody that's sort of in the consensus, non-sanctioning body sort of top 10.
That's what I want to try and explain to a lot of people. People got to understand this game of boxing, and you know it, and I know it. And there's people on the outside who say, oh, he fights this guy, he fights that guy, where's it going, where's it going? Kevin is building as far as his notoriety. You must understand something. You got the Usaks and the guys floating on top here.
Usyk is the heavyweight,
now Breeders is going heavyweight.
Yeah.
So Kevin's breaking through because they want to fight each other, because the money's big amongst each other.
Yes.
Kevin has to build, which he is now.
Yes.
He's building his money worth up there, where now they want to come and say, we want to fight Kevin. You see, the game works, it works on your credibility. Nobody knew Kevin coming up the ranks when he first fought for the IBO. They were like, Okay.
Fought Kalenga, yes.
He said called Yuri, and Yuri was a great fighter.
Yuri is a strong guy.
Dangerous
Strong
fighter.
Dangerous fighter.
He can turn a fight around at any moment.
Yes.
For us to take the fight against him was a big like Kevin even looked at it and I said, listen to me, you'll beat him and you'll knock him out.
Yes.
I studied him, I looked at his style, I knew what to put together, I planned the fight, and we went forward, and Kevin trusted me. Kevin looked, he said, Coach, whatever you say. And we went forward and we did it. Now, we know Ronnie Berman is like looking for the best opportunities climbing up the ladder. You know, it's not climbing up a ladder, you don't start on top. You climb up to the top. So, people that are naysayers against Kevin's career, which a lot are out there, don't understand boxing. So, in a good way, I just explained that it's climbing the ladder. Because when you on the roof, the boys on the roof are looking at each other, not the boy, they're not looking down at the guy coming up the ladder. That's where they're fighting it. So they're getting the $1 million fight. They're not looking at giving Kevin an opportunity yet until he's proven his worth, which he's doing. But now, unfortunately, you see the Usaks moving out to bigger things into heavyweights, which Kevin and I will do eventually when we're on the roof.
That's a good point. Kevin is kind of a big cruiserweight.
Yeah.
He's a bulky guy. How long can he still make cruiserweight?
You know, Kevin's disciplined, so he knows how to control his weight. He's always like professional about how he comes in, and so he's always made weight. Kevin's always been at that weight where he is right now. He's strong, he's big. He's got big legs. He carries a lot, so
you can see the rugby.
Yes.
Not only in the injuries.
And he's naturally like a strong, got a great strong physique, great athlete. The difference is with Kevin, obviously now the main mindset is to stay at cruiserweights, not yet to think outside the box. Let us get on the roof with the other boys and play with them, and then make the name that we need to move into the heavyweights.
Okay.
I don't want to move. We can't move into heavyweights where we are now because
there's credibility business.
Yeah, the credibility. Who does he fight? Lower end heavyweights to build himself back up. Rather, we want to do what Usyk does and what Breeders has done. They've dominated the cruiserweight.
Yes.
Now they're moving into the heavyweights.
Okay. We're all watching Kevin's career with great interest, and we're hoping to see big things soon when things normalize as well. And let's leave that now and let's go to Saturday night. You do like the challenges, you do like the, almost said weird stuff, but you do like the unusual stuff. Now you've got Boyd Allen. Now Boyd is a former MMA champion in the EFC, Africa's premier mixed martial arts promotion, but he was an amateur boxer before that. Then he became very successful in MMA. Now he's back to boxing. He's only had 6 fights. But he's not doing it Conor McGregor style, he's doing it the right way. He's actually fighting guys and earning his spot. Unfortunately, he's not getting Conor's money, but who is?
Never know.
For that kind of money, I'll fight Mayweather. But now you've got Boyd Allen. This is only the second fight that is with you. Am I correct? Yes, it's actually only the second fight that you guys are together. And now you've got Boyd Allen, and that's a completely different challenge because he had a lot of his MMA stuff in boxing, a lot of switch hitting, 1-2 shot punches, pot shot strikes. His last fight, you changed him into a much more orthodox boxer. Talk to us a bit about the challenges, and is that now a Boyd style, or could you go back to the switch hitting style? Does it depend on the opponent?
No, Drooks, I must say, it's been great. Boyd is such a special,
fantastic guy, eh?
But as an athlete,
a real mindful sort of
as
person.
a fighter, the mindset. I love his ethics. I love his attitude, and he learns. You can teach him, and he's adaptable. He'll push himself into trying. And like I say, coming from all the different backgrounds, it's hard to. It's not hard. It's just the challenges that as a trainer, I do my part to install what needs to be. To what I see and believe, where I can evolve him into that status. Listen, we know we're in for a big fight tonight. Tomorrow.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to it because I want to see what's come out of it. In this time. Unfortunately, lockdown's been up and down, up and down. We haven't had a lot of time to connect until that a lift got taken off. So I'm not disturbed about it. I'm very confident in Boyd this fight. Very confident. It's going to be down to Saturday night, and we'll see what comes out.
Last question. Who had the nickname of a sniper first, you or Corey?
Me.
You. Yeah.
Alan Tuwil gave it to me. And funny enough, I was in America, and was it the Rahman fight?
I was saying Rahman, yeah.
The first time I heard
Corey
was,
never had a nickname really.
No, never. never.
So,
and Corey and I used to train together.
Yes.
And he knew me as the sniper then.
Yeah.
But it was cool. I mean,
That's cool.
Corey was a sniper.
That's actually a compliment. You can't do that.
Corey was one of the greatest fighters South Africa's ever had. So it's a compliment in many ways. So, you know, and when I saw it for the first time, I was like, was it Klitschko or Rahman? I don't know which fight it was. I heard it for the first time. I was sitting in America and I was watching Corey.
I called him a sniper there at the Rahman fight.
It was a Rahman.
HBO, yeah.
That's right.
I can't remember if it was one before that, but
yes,
they got the nickname later in the career.
And then
find him a nickname.
Yeah, and I heard sniper. I said, what the heck? Did I hear right? Yeah. And then it was so cool because
it brought him some very good fortune there with Klitschko and Vladimir.
Massive, massive. Yeah, and you know, I've trained with Corey and I used to train together. It was some of the best moments of my career. Training with such a great, talented man, and him and I were good mates. And I still remember the time him and I sparred that big Valiv at 7 foot
Nikolai Valuev.
7 footer. I walked in.
How did you do that?
Harold said some
Russian guy doesn't fall on you.
No. We said some Russians coming here to spar us, and we're in the gym. And Harold remembered this. And he said some Russians coming into the gym, and me and Corey looked at each other and we said, okay, whatever, he's going to come spar, he's sparring, he's doing something.
He had a fight here in South Africa long before he won the world title.
Did he? I can't remember.
No. It was another Russian. Sorry.
Okay.
No, I'm wrong.
Yeah. So we looked, and me and Corey like skipping and talking and chatting, warming up for this Russian to come. And the doors opened up like this. And I still remember Corey and I looking through the mirror. Yeah. And we saw this 7 foot Russian duck under the door.
It's like a scene from Japan's Pride. They like those kind of things.
And I heard that Corey go, whoa, and I won't say the word I said, but you know, we saw it. I said, listen, Corey, I'll go first. And listen, but I'm going to steam this out the best I can, and then you take over from there. And jeepers, did we? And they came. I mean, they were like, you know, they came to spar. I mean, he was a big guy. And he was making a global tour, and he was doing. They were taking him all around the world. Quite an interesting method of the Russians used, and he became a heavyweight champion of the world as well. Yeah, I think you know, if him and Corey together. And I did well with him, man.
He's slow.
I almost dropped him. I remember the second round, almost had him out because he was coming.
Yeah.
I mean, you see this big unit coming at you, and you think, "Jeez, what is in his mind? What is he thinking? Is it going to be?" Anyway, so we got stuck into each other, and the Russians jumped in the ring, and they went mad. No, and it was going on. I said, "Okay." And then he was coming again. I saw he was upset because I really hurt him, and then I dropped down. I threw an overhand right on him. And he caught my arm out, and I tore the tendons. I had frozen shoulder. I was out for 6 months of my boxing career in that part of my career from that sparring session. And then I carried on sparring the round finish, and I dropped my arm, and then they rushed into one more and said, "I'll get out." Thank goodness they said to me, "Get out," because I don't want to show it. Yeah. And then I got out, and then Corey took over, and Corey was sparring him. I think they went about 6 rounds or something with Corey. And and then I was injured from there for 6 months of my career. I still remember. So I got treated, and what a great man.
So that's it. Peter Smith also sparred with giants, and good luck on Saturday. We'll be watching with interest. It's an even Stevens fight, and we're all looking forward to it. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you,
Peter.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.